take me internally, forever yours, nocturnal me. Take me internally, forever yours, nocturnal me. Do or die, what's done is done. True beauty lies on a blue horizon. Who or why? What's one is one in pure disguise. A vulgar songs, oh, take me internally, forever yours, nocturnal me. 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 And I step fire, oh, burning wood, in a world of wire. Unite our dreams of starry skies, and you and me, us realized our bigger themes. So take me internally, forever yours, nocturnal me. Take me internally, forever yours, nocturnal me. Compromise, discovery, it's distant, it's only I could fail. Oh, you miss construe of the detectives. Nothing too hard or that, just some heads and a wish, something to sing about. We have no dark things. Nothing too hard or that, just some heads and a wish, something to dream about. We have no dark things. Nothing too hard or that, just some heads and a wish, something to dream about.
Yeah.
step.
You are listening to the Brian Turner Show.
Well, we are tuned in once again. We just heard a few Bunnymen live tracks from 1982 from France, and the auspicious occasion is that we are joined by none other than Mr. Will Sargent, who is at home overseas. Hi, Will.
Hi.
Nice to have you. And the occasion is the book is coming out in the States, out in England and overseas now, called Bunnyman, your memoirs. Very, very cool reading. And
you read it?
Yeah.
Oh, they sent you like a PDF or something, did they?
I actually read a book on my phone for the first time while I was on the train. While I was on the train to the Catskills. So that was, congratulations. And I guess you were doing this all during lockdown, right?
Yeah, but I did start it before the lockdown, because what I was doing was a few labels put out the early Bunnymen records, like, on 180 gram vinyl or coloured vinyl or something like that. And they asked me to do the sleeve notes. So I'd sort of started the writing thing before, and I enjoyed it, And then I met somebody that sort of got me in touch with an agent and just took it from there, really. And, I've never written anything this long in my life, and I was rubbish at English in school and everything. Or I wasn't interested, wasn't interested. But I really enjoyed the process doing it, it's been great.
About how long did it take you?
About 9 months, I think.
Yeah.
Writing pretty much every day.
And mainly we're pretty much documenting your period up until, getting with Warner Brothers Sire and things like that. So it's for the uninitiated, the book is a very kind of chart of your musical DNA, where you came from, where ideas came from, and of course like a very community focused thing around Liverpool and your discovery and seeing cool gigs, formative gigs, and you were like working in a department store and cooking, but you were buying lots of records at that time.
Well, that's all I spent my money on really was records, and they were hard to get then. If you wanted something rare, you had to order it in from the shop, or sometimes in the back of the NME and the Sounds, they'd have, like adverts. You could send off, postal orders and stuff like this for, 10 bob to buy the latest, I don't know, Cramps single or something. And then, like, when I started working in Liverpool, Probe Records was going. So that was the big record shop in Liverpool that did all the weird stuff, the interesting stuff, lots and the strange. And they had a second-hand record bit as well,
You're getting all the rough trade singles.
Like the Bleecker Bobs of Liverpool,
the Bleecker Bobs of Liverpool.
Yeah.
Well, friendlier, I hope. But
no, it wasn't. It's not friendly at all.
Yeah. Well, what was it kind of like at the, you sort of found a spiritual home at Eric's and people to hang out with, and my only sort of documentation of that, well, I read the Bill Drummond book, but I also had that To the Shores of Lake Placid comp, so I got a little smidgen of what was going on there. What were some of the highlight, like who was great live during that whole period? And obviously the Teardrops, but
Teardrop Explodes, they had the moments when they were great live. They did a residency at like a club called the Pyramid Club, which used to be called the Iron Door in the 60s, and it was one of the places where probably the Beatles hung out, or but by the time Bill Drummond set up this night, I think it was a Wednesday or a Thursday, it was kind of like a dead night, and he called it Club Zoo, and the idea was to get Teardrops playing every week and doing different songs and kind of getting them tight, because we'd started doing gigs and we were off doing gigs, and we were getting good. Bill Drummond was thinking Teardrops aren't as good as us, so they need to tighten their act up, and he was thinking the Beatles went to Hamburg and played all the time and all that for hours on end. we'll get Teardrops doing this regular thing at Club Zoo. That was like the theory is what I understood it anyway. And, I saw them there quite a few times, and some nights they were great.
Were you guys playing with Les yet, or was it just you, Mac, and the drum machine?
Well, no, by the time Club Zoo came along, it was the four of us.
Okay, so Pete was in going.
And, like the drum machine, it was only about a year, really. I think we did 10 gigs, something like that, with the drum machine. And then, Seymour Stein saw us in London at the YMCA. It was like a kind of like mini indoor festival with us, and I think Orchestral Manoeuvres, Teardrops were on, Joy Division were on. We were the first on, we had the drum machine, and Seymour Stein liked us, and he sort of, got a message to Bill Drummond, who was managing us, that he wanted to sign us as long as we got a drummer, and we were happy to get a drummer because the drum machine had kind of served its purpose, and kind of, they weren't as sophisticated as they are now, like we're just turning off and it'd tick away.
I think you had three settings or something. I read like three different settings, like rock 1 and rock 2.
Yeah, like there was other settings on it, but they were all crap. You wouldn't use, bossa nova. It just didn't sound right. You could sort of put a couple of buttons in at once and get like a combination of say rock and bossa nova, so it'd have like a clave, sound in it.
Yeah,
which we did do.
Did you take that to the Peel session? Were you doing that at that point, or did you have a Pete at that point?
No, the very first Peel session we had the drum machine.
Wow, pretty amazing.
Early on.
At one point, I think I remember reading, maybe not through you, but I think at some point Bill Drummond wanted to kind of like make you and the Teardrops a gang and like sort of share a PA and make sure you are both using the PA. Obviously that couldn't have lasted too long with the directions you were both going in, but
I think Bill Drummond put some money into a PA with this bloke in Stockport called Harry DeMack. Peak Sound and Lighting they were called. And it was in an area called the Peak District. I don't quite know what the deal was, but I know Bill Drummond didn't come off too well with that deal. I think he put the money in to build this PA. Some shenanigans went on and he ended up without it. But we used to use Harry DeMack and his PA all the time. He was like almost one of the team, him and his little crew that were, would come to Europe with us and all that. Mm-hmm. So you had to take your PA with you then. There was, like now, when you go and do a gig, or for us anyway, you go to a club or a venue and they've got a PA in there already, mic everything up and off you go. Then we used to have we had an articulated lorry.
Tractor trailer.
Yeah, tractor trailer, that's it. And full of lights and PA. That was later on when Pete was in it, that's not mentioned in this book, really.
Right. As your sound evolved and everything, you started playing Europe and all these things, but I'm just very curious about the early days with seeing The Fall for the first time. Must have been you must have seen like their second gig out of town or first gig out of town or something, right?
I saw them pretty early on. I don't know how many gigs they'd done. Like they were on that compilation, weren't they? Live at the Roxy, weren't they on that?
Yeah, right. That was an early thing.
Oh, that was early doors punk. Yeah, punk compilation. That was the first time I'd heard them.
But yeah, I was just I really clicked with The Fall. I think after Scanlon and Hanley joined, but it was a whole different band back then with Brahma and Una and everything. And when you saw them, what was it like? What really distinguished them from like the average punk bands coming through? Like, what did you?
The words were more intelligent, and Marky Smith had a different attitude. He wasn't trying to be a punk. It wasn't as far as I could say, they weren't punks. They were like, there was something other, but they fitted in with the punk scene because it was kind of had that do it yourself and kind of cottage industry vibe. And, and the music was kind of rough and they weren't like, they couldn't play that great, but that was what was the appeal of them. We couldn't play that great.
So you shared some early bills and everything, I imagine, right?
We used to love The Fall. We were like obsessed with them.
Were you roadies at some point too? I always heard rumors that
I don't think so. I think might have brought in a couple of guitars for them out of that or something. But not really released.
Well, I always saw Brahma as like really television inspired too, which was like really makes that Witch Trials record different. It's kind of like a more on speed television or something to me, you know.
Pretty accurate.
Picked a lot of these live tracks, just for the added dimension. I think the Bunnymen live really, back in the days when I was discovering music, I was trading a lot of tapes online, or not online, but via magazine ads and stuff. And I always just was blown away by like how more expansive the band was live. And, there was like a discovery of like not just those extended songs featured just psychedelic noise, which you didn't see in a lot of bands in the 80s at that time. There was a very referential thing. So to me, that was always really, really fascinating. So hence we picked a few of these songs. And we're going to play a couple more. We're going to try this next set, and we're going to hear some stuff moving on to 1983. And we're going to hear some stuff from the Rock Palace show from back then. I don't know if you have any memories of that, Will, but Broke My Neck was in that set.
I've seen it on the telly on the other channel over here called Sky Arts on that. And I know I was there because I've seen it, but I can't remember being there.
So let's check this out. This is Broke My Neck, which was a B-side. Great track.
We had what we used to do is if we had a day off, Bill Drummond used to organise for us to go into a studio and do a B-side. So we were in Norway. I think it was Norway, and he found the studio up this like mountain track, and we just went to the studio and made this up in the studio, and it's all based around Les's bass thing, and I had a thing called an Ebo, which is like a funny little thing you put on the guitar and it makes the strings vibrate.
Drone.
He used that on his bass, so the bass was kind of like a cello kind of sound almost, and he just did this sequence of notes and Pete playing along, and I just thrashed a few sub Andy Gill riffs out,
Nice.
And that was Broke My Neck.
Awesome.
But it was always good when you could have like that explosive thing, where everything was kind of quiet, and then all of a sudden it was kind of going to go dead loud.
Yeah, I want to talk about some of your soundtracky stuff a little bit too. But yeah, let's check out this next live set. We're going to hear some stuff from this Rock Palace show, and then we're going to hear some stuff from the Royal Albert Hall. So we'll be right back with Will Sargent.
butcher shop with your head in the clouds and your trousers undone. And shit on the carpet just like everyone. This is the one for the money. This is the one for the trees. This is the one for heaven. This is the one for me. Decision. Take it for a walk and hold it, hold it. Pin it on the wall and fasten onto. Even to the bad people, yes, oh yes. Do what must be done and don't take me. This is the one for the money. This is the one for the trees. This is the one for the heaven. This is the one for me. Thank you, sir. What the hell, there's people in here. Why don't you come down? Where the hell have you been? We've been waiting with our best suits on. Stuck up and all that jazz, rolling down the Union Jack. See you at the barricades, babe. See you when the lights go low.
All right, and we just came back. We heard two tracks there from the Royal Albert Hall, 1984. What a gig! Wow, and kind of, I think one thing the Bunnymen always really exceeded in was making their shows a happening. You know, it wasn't just a gig. It was,
Yeah, that was like, I can remember that gig. You know, I think we did 2 nights, and we filmed it as well. And it was there is some odd bits of film floating around, but we filmed the whole gig, so I don't know whatever happened to it, why it never came out.
Yeah, I had like a VHS bootleg for years or something like that. Some of it's on YouTube. I think maybe the whole thing, but I'm not sure the quality of it. But it is a great gig.
Like, it'd be good for it to come out properly. But we had to stop the gig because there was kind of like a big crush down the front, and all the barriers went and that. And it took, like, Bill Drummond had to go and negotiate with the Albert Hall for months to try and get us to be on there. He was like saying, "Oh no, they're really, you know, they're not a wild rock and roll band and all that sort of stuff."
No gobbing.
You know, and because I think no one had played there, I think, since Deep Purple or somebody, or Cream or something like this, you know, from the early 70s. So they kind of stopped doing rock gigs there. And I know it took a bit of negotiating from Bill to convince them that we were like tame. And then, like, first gig, the bloody barrier goes and everybody.
Yeah, there were some rambunctious fans in the front. I remember seeing that. But also a very expanded lineup for that show. Ocean Rain had come out, which was much more lush, you know, less garagey, I guess. So you had a whole slew of folks on stage with congas and viola and everything. Was that something you'd done a lot for around that time, 84, with Ocean Rain, or you just special occasions?
I think we did a little tour with them, and we had another guitarist, and Mac had stopped playing guitar, and we had Tim Whitaker, who was our mate from Liverpool. He was the drummer with Deaf School. We had a flat with him and that, you know, in Liverpool, so it was kind of like a good shoe in there for Tim to just become the conga player. And he used to play him with sticks, really bash him with sticks. Yeah, I think we had a couple of trumpet players, didn't we? I think, or something like that. It was just like trying to do something different and trying to like create the album, you know, the Ocean Rain album a bit more. You know, we had Adam Peters on cello.
Yeah, does Adam Peters still live in New York? I knew his band Family of God, who were awesome.
Yeah, they were great. No, he lives in Topanga Canyon now, and it's weird you should mention him because I'm sort of in the middle of helping him do a soundtrack for a new TV series, I think it is. You know, it's his thing, but I'm helping, just providing guitar bits and stuff like that.
Yeah, that Family of God record's amazing. You can find it everywhere in New York still too, in the used bins, but it's so beautiful looking too. But yeah, I mean, other times you play, like I think around that time in Liverpool too, you organized kind of a, you know, the event was kind of like an art piece in a way. You had people sort of have to follow a map to get all these clues, and was that a Bill Drummond kind of escapade?
So all of us really, like we all put in ideas. Like I was quite into cycling, and Les was into cycling, so we'll have a cycle ride, you know. So anyone who wants to bring the bike, we'll do this route. And we just set off and everybody followed us. And we went all over Liverpool and all around by the park and everywhere. Sefton Park, Lark Lane down there. You know, we wanted to just showcase Liverpool weirdness really. Like we had everybody going on the ferry. And we used to go to this cafe called Brian's, which was just like a normal, like a greasy spoon cafe, sort of rehearsed close to it. So we'd go in there and have a cup of tea or a break or a egg butty or whatever, you know. So part of the deal was you had to go to Brian's Cafe to get your ticket stamped so you could get in the gig. So basically, Brian got loads of money for like food, you know. It wasn't that strict. We weren't like going, oh, yeah, ticket. That was part of the vibe. And it was a lot of people come from outside the city, and we wanted to sort of show them like interesting parts of the city. And it was in St. George's Hall. It's no one had played there either for years and years. I think Judas Priest were the last band to play there in like 1971 or something.
Brian, there was a film at Brian's too, wasn't there? Wasn't there some sort of TV thing where Bunnymen played a couple, like All You Need Is Love? Or was that at Brian's? I remember
Yeah,
some sort of
Life
TV.
Brian. It was a Channel 4 TV thing.
Yeah, I think that's floating around on YouTube as well.
Yeah, it was quite good, that. And we liked Brian and his Mrs. called Gloria. And we loved them, you know, we thought they were great. And we everything, if you bought any food there, like Brian was a little bit, he used to be a boxer, so he wasn't the best at, you know, mathematics. And he'd go oh, just a pound. Everything was just a pound. We just give him a pound, you know, we'd have like £5 worth of food.
That's awesome. Well, those were the lean days. You needed that in a way, right? But I really saw, like, you know, that period, 84 and everything, just, you know, you guys did Ocean Rain. You made this record that was just like full of, you know, Scott Walker vibe almost. It was a real added stuff to your palette. You know, I hear Nocturnal Me, and I think you went to Russia at some point together, right? And maybe that's a little reflective of that kind of stuff, that great tube performance.
Yeah, we saw, there was like a bit of a Russian influence there, definitely, with like Yo-Yo Man and Nocturnal Me and Killing Moon, like, you know, which was a bit later. Or it might have been just before. I don't know. But Les did like a mandolin-y kind of thing on the bass, you know, dead fast.
Mm-hmm. Kind of Volga River stuff kind of going on.
Do balalaika style-y.
And I heard that Peel Sessions disc came out not too long ago, and I had never heard the Ocean Rain Peel Sessions, and they're so different. They're so the song structures, like Silver and everything, are just completely like 180. It's pretty fascinating to hear that.
Yeah, things develop, don't they? You know, and as you play them, you find new bits. And
the studio was probably a big part of that too, right? The studio where it recorded in Paris.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. And they had it really sort of cheesed me off a bit, because they had this amazing plate reverb unit. It was a great big wooden box down a corridor, and everything went through this reverb, and it gave it that real Scott Walker kind of massive sound, you know. We didn't mix it there. We mixed it in England, and we hired in a plate reverb, but it wasn't as good.
Oh, so in the actual mixing, you were kind of...
We mixed it in Paris, you know, through this reverb, because it was the vocals and everything just sounded like glorious, you know.
Wow, I can't imagine it sounding more glorious, but that's pretty interesting to hear that.
Well, yeah, you know, they're pretty good in the end, but it's like I always regret not mixing it there, really.
Well, we're going to move on to the next set then, and in fact, I guess, you know, as you guys were playing these huge kind of ensemble shows, you decided to do a tour of Sweden, just like totally amps and drums and covers, and that's pretty amazing too. What was the impetus behind that?
We were just like changing all the time. We didn't like staying and doing the same thing, you know, and we decided that we would support ourselves. So instead of having a support band, we would go and do cover versions before our gig, and do like, you know, 10 cover versions or something like that, you know. And it was all songs that we liked. So it was a mismatch, you know. It was like a bit of Talking Heads were in there, the Velvets. We did It's All Over Now, Baby Blue, but we did the sort of Chocolate Watch Band version.
You did the Big Country, right, from Talking Heads?
That's it, yeah.
That's a Bunnyman song in the making right there. It's structure wise, yeah. Well, let's check out this. And you know, this was actually the first time I ever heard the Bunnymen. It was like I got this tape in the mail from this Gothenburg show, and you were doing all these covers, and and then the second half was your songs. And then I heard the albums, and it was completely different. So it was very amazing, kind of awakening to me. Let's check this out. We'll hear Friction, and we'll be right back.
eyes are like telescopes. I sail backwards through one's home. If I ever catch that ventriloquist, I feel his head right into my fist. Someone comes tracking in. What is it? What's the prediction? I bet it's friction. I bet it's friction. I bet it's friction. Out of the snake, get out of the snake pit. Set the sails. There's all us boys who wind up in jail. I don't wanna grow up. There's too much contradiction, too much friction, too much friction. But I need F-R-I-C-T-I-O-N. Thank you. Don't be scared when it gets low, when your skin begins said, it's 5,000 to you. Come on, baby, come on, baby, come on, baby, come on, baby. Know that it'll be on you. You know that I would be alive if I was to say to you, girl, we couldn't get much higher. Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Try something right on. Let it go. Yeah, it is. It's not that big. In real life, there's only 3 foot tall. All the boys are the same. They got the rings and the tattoos. All the girls are the same. They're knocking and rocking, knocking and rocking, knocking and rocking, knocking and rocking. Someone just the other day said wait until tomorrow. I said hey, what you doing today? He said I'm gonna do it tomorrow. Met someone just the other day said wait until tomorrow. I said hey, what you doing today? I'm gonna do it tomorrow, 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 tomorrow. Thank you. This is it's called Thorn of Crowns, or Cucumber is the alternative title. set my teeth on edge. You think you're a vegetable, never come out of the fridge. Cucumber, cabbage, cauliflower, minimize a real shower. You are a dying breed, you are a dying breed. You once was an Inca, now you're a Cherokee. Cucumber, cabbage, cauliflower, minimize a real shower. Wait for me on the blue horizon for everyone. Wait for me on new horizons for everyone. I wanna be one times one with you, come on, be one times one with me. Too many criminals in Great Britain. We should chop all criminals' arms off and unicize them. Chop the gender off at the knee. I've decided to wear my thorn of crowns. I've decided to wear my thorn of crowns. Inside out, back to front, upside down, all the way down. Do you know how to dance? Ask Boney Maroney. Do you know how to twist? Qu'il does it like this, Leslie does it like this.
So here, previously unseen, are Echo and the Bunnymen performing the latest single, which is released this week.
Cool. So we just ran through another set. There we heard Thorn of Crowns from '88, Crocodiles, a couple more Royal Albert Hall songs, and then that great version of Friction. You know, one thing I think about the Bunnymen was, you know, whatever bands were being marketed as new wave or whatever, none of them were really paying lip service to the great influences, and you guys were really talking up Doors, the Beatles, the Litter, the Talking Heads. You know, I learned a lot about bands through your band. It was always very fascinating to me. So it's kind of cool you preserved that history in a way.
Yeah, well, I thought, like, a lot of that was my influence, really. I had the records, you know, I was...
You're definitely a big Tom Verlaine fan, I would imagine.
Yeah, I love Tom Verlaine and I love Richard Lloyd as well.
But I think that the bunny, some of the soloing and stuff is like a much more psychedelicized television in so many ways. It's great. But it was at my old station FMU. Tom Verlaine came and guest DJ'd, and he played all Bollywood records, and it made like complete sense.
I think Tom Verlaine was really into Richard Thompson. I think from Fairport Convention. I think there's a track called "Song of the Sailor." And it's got like solos in it, and it could be Tom Verlaine. It's doing all, that kind of repeated
modal,
twiddly kind of vibrato on his fingers and stuff. It is dead like, it could be a Tom Verlaine solo. But I think I read somewhere that he liked Richard Thompson, so obviously he took something from that.
Yeah, well, he was very into he was playing that D drone note and shaking note, like Sailor's Life and all that stuff was very modal, very Middle Eastern. But it was cool to hear Verlaine play all these Bollywood records because all that buggy guitar, you just sort of figured perfect,
The Neon Boys, you must have that single that came out, with Richard Hell.
Oh, right. That's All I Know Right Now.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome too. Yeah, and I guess they're still playing, but Richard Lloyd's not in the band anymore. They have like Verlaine's friend is playing second guitar.
Yep, somebody or Jimmy Yep, something like that.
I was watching the Rick Rubin McCartney thing last night too.
Yeah, we just watched that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I thought I only got through 3 of them, but I loved how they broke down all the elements of everything to show like it's not so daunting. Like to me, it's the Beatles were always impenetrable chords. Like I didn't know what they were like. Obviously, they're influenced by Bach and everything, but he really kind of stripped it all down. It's like here's how you make this chord and that chord and. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Well, I always think, like Paul McCartney was, like I commented on somebody that posted that thing. I commented like Paul McCartney always was the far out one. Always was the one that was like into the avant-garde, music concrete and all that stuff. He knew about all that stuff. He was hanging out down the Indica Gallery, and all these places. So he was like influenced by a lot of that sort of, out there, oh God, what's his name? The one that did
Terry Riley.
Yeah. Terry Riley, yeah. And all that sort of stuff. So he's like, he was the one that was more, to me, the one that's more kind of, definitely more experimental.
Yeah, he was going to see like AMM doing like prepared guitar stuff and, of course, like Hendrix's first show with like 6 people there. He was there too, it was pretty interesting. But I really liked how he broke down and had the base elements of everything, and then just everything else is flourishes and building. It kind of demystified it a little bit, but also made it seem so much cooler. They discover a weird chord, like where can we put that chord, like. So after 84, you were getting pretty well known in America. Did you feel any push by Warner's or whatever to all these other guys are playing stadiums and crap, Simple Minds and everything? Was the Bunnymen were always kind of left to their own devices to do whatever weird thing they wanted, but did you start feeling pressure around this time from like labels in America and the whatever alternative rock scene going on?
Yeah. But and it caused friction, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were sort of getting shoved a different way that we didn't want to go, really. In a way, At one point, we sort of thought, "Shall we just go for it?" And we sort of agreed, but it was kind of a bit half-arsed on my part, anyway. Like the Grey album, some of the sounds on there are a bit too nice. It was a bit too kind of polished, and that's why I didn't like it, really.
Good songs. But much more for the radio, for K-Rock, kind of thing.
And like there was a point after we did that tour with New Order. We were doing like the sheds, we call them. I don't know whether you call them like them big outdoor amphitheater things. And then the next time we went back, we were doing them on our own.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like a snowball rolling down a mountain, and it was gathering snow, and there's no way that we're going to stop it. I remember me, Les, and Jake, and Pete were wandering around outside at one of these like amphitheaters somewhere, and nobody knew who we were. They only knew who Mac was. It was all like teenagers. Like, is this really what we want to do?
But when you did come back, I saw that show in Philly in like '88, you like brought out the camo set and everything, and did like a blazing show. That was a great tour.
Yeah, I think the live gigs were always great. You know, it's a different beast live than the records. You know, the records are more contemplative. You know, you kind of like sit down, you listen to it, and there's like everything's nicely placed. But live, it's wilder. You know, it's a bit more. Like I like playing live. You know, I love it. Like because you don't know what the hell's going to happen half the time. You know.
I saw one of those New Order gigs on a pier in New York.
Oh yeah.
And my remaining thought of it was Gene Loves Jezebel played in the middle of the set. The guy was out in the crowd, and someone like catapulted this giant block of ice that was like 20 pounds. Like it just went over our heads in an arc, and then it just smashed perfectly on the dude's head from Gene Loves Jezebel. Like he was okay, but it was just like this amazing act of God. Like this is like huge meteor of ice came down out of, like where did they get a 20-pound block of ice, and how did they like foist it at this guy's head?
A trebuchet.
Yeah.
Evil flinging.
Yeah, there was some.
You probably didn't have them in America. We had them around here, you know.
Yeah.
Battering walls of castles.
Part of every gig, you have to have a medieval catapult. But I think Manzarek played that show, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he probably did. Yeah, he did a few of those. Yeah.
Couple gigs. All right, well, let's move on to our next set, and we are going to check in with. Actually, we're going to play some of these great B-sides, and you know, I always wondered how come you guys just never did a B-sides compilation. I guess a lot of it's on the Rhino box.
I don't know, it's just never thought about it. Well, you know, I like a lot of the B-sides, but don't know. Like I had an idea not long back of doing a tour where we just played the B-sides as like a warm-up, and then we do our set, like similar thing to the you know, the cover version thing. It's getting everyone to agree to it. It's like, forget it.
Yeah.
After a while, you just think, I can't be asked arguing.
But they're definitely not throwaways. And it was cool to see this film surfaced from Simple Stuff that your mate Bill Butt did, right?
I've not seen that one.
Oh yeah. There's like it's a sort of just like strewn together tour footage, bus. Yeah, it's up on YouTube now. It's just a couple weeks ago. Yeah. And Bill used to do a lot of videography for you. I mean, I think you were all kind of shooting footage on the road, right?
Yeah, that's had a camera. He had a 16mm camera, and he had some really good, you know, Nikon or Nikon cameras. Bill Butt had a Braun Super 8, I think he had, which was like a fancy Super 8 camera. Yeah, and he was always dicking around with filming and stuff like that.
Did he do Shine So Hard? Was that his production too?
Yeah. He didn't. It was directed by another bloke, but he was heavily involved with it. You know, it was kind of like a joint thing. Bill Butt and this other bloke. I can't remember what his name was now. Shine So Hard was. It was that gig in Buxton, which is like in a valley, and it takes ages to get there because you have to go over the Snake Pass, I think it's called.
It was like a big garden or something area, I think.
Yeah, it's like a Victorian spa town or something, you know. That was amazing. We played this great big kind of glass building, you know. It wasn't a greenhouse. It wasn't like a botanic. I think it was, what was it exactly? I don't know, opera house or something like this. But we kept having to stop the gig so they could move the cameras about, you know, and all that, because we didn't have like a great big film crew. We had a couple of cameras. So, you know, the fans got a bit cheesed off with that, a bit disgruntled. At the end of it, I don't think everybody remembers that. I think they just remember it was a brilliant gig.
And a kind of abstract film, and if our listeners have never seen it, it's up online. It's called Shine So Hard. I think 81, right? Somewhere around there, probably.
Yeah, it was, it's quite sort of arty. You know, just like pictures of windows in the dark and in the light, and then with the curtains closed, and then, you know, all kind of stuff like that.
Buying ice cream bars. I think there's some scenes of that. Cool. Well, let's check out this Simple Stuff track, and we'll be back to talk one more time with Will. And we're going to hear some more of these B-sides in this set, so stay tuned.
We sat all night around a table, trying to string 3 words together. Time has come, and by the way, mine's a double. By the way, mine's a double. Looking for some we don't understand. Everything we Mr. Me, hoping to be where ugliness meets beauty. And if you'll see the demon in you, the angel in me, the Jesus in you, the devil in me.
All right, finally we're back. Yeah, we heard a bunch of great stuff in that. We heard Angels and Devils. We heard Over Your Shoulder. What a great track that was. Kind of like throwing the Jesus and Mary chain to the curb on that one at the time. It was super noisy, kind of velvety.
Yeah, we get that in a, I think it was a 4-track. It's just like some little studio in down a back sort of Copley Street in Liverpool. And Angels and Devils, we did that one in San Francisco, which was another one of these ones where we had a day off. And Bill Drummond said, "Oh, we need a B-side. I booked you into the studio in San Francisco." We were like, "Oh, great," you know. And there was like a hire place down the road, you know, for rentals, so you can rent like guitars and all that. We didn't have any equipment with us because that was all going to the next gig in the van, you know, in the truck. So I got a 12-string guitar. Les got a double bass. Never played a double bass before, but he got one. I thought I'll figure it out. There was electronic harpsichord in there. I played that. And Pete just got a couple of drums, like Mo Tucker style, you know. And we just sort of made up this Angels and Devils track, which became like, you know, it became a favorite, really, you know.
That's interesting. I thought it was kind of the same Parisian session vibe, you know, kind of the recording sounded very much like that KV. Oh.
It just kind of, we made it up in the studio on that one day and recorded it and mixed it all on the same day.
Oh, amazing. Well, the last thing I wanted to talk to you about was some of these great things you've done on your own as well. You had a group called Glide, and also the themes for Grind record, which it took me, you know, back in the 80s, it was impossible to find that thing, but tracked it down. That's a great kind of Eno vibe thing happening. What was the story behind that? And is there an actual film?
What happened was Bill Buss was making a film called Grind, and he had an actor and everything was, you know, he had a script and all the rest of it. And he started filming it, and they asked me to do the soundtrack. And I said, yeah, great. And Bill Drummond bought me a TIAC 4-track machine to record the soundtrack on. It cost something like £1,500, and yeah, it weren't cheap. And that was kind of like an advance. I'll buy you this tape machine if you do the soundtrack. So I started doing that, and then halfway through, Bill Buck got his car stolen, and all his footage and his cameras and everything was just in the back of the car. He was doing something with it or taking it somewhere or whatever. So, that just vanished, never seen it again. And, also the actor that he was using was a bloke called Nick Frost. And not that Nick Frost, but Simon Pegg's mate, a different one. I think he changed his name to Farrell. I think his name was Nick Farrell, but he changed his name to Frost. Anyway, whatever. Do you remember that film Chariots of Fire?
Mm-hmm.
He was in that film, Chariots of Fire. He was one of the, the runners on the beach at the beginning and all that. And his sort of career started taking off a little bit. So he was getting busy, and he couldn't, do the things again that Bill had filmed, because it was, I'm too busy now type of thing. I've got to go and do this stuff I did somewhere else or whatever. And he, so that was the end of that. But I'd recorded all this stuff, and I just sort of thought, well, I'm going to put it out anyway. So that's what happened, and I started my own little record label called 92 Happy Customers, and Rough Trade pressed and distributed it. That was it, really.
Is that all guitar? Is there synths? Are you playing synths on that?
There might be some synths. When I listen to it now, I think, how the hell did I do that? Because I had a 4-track machine. It's not a lot of tracks to play with, but it sounds like a lot more than that, I don't know. I had a thing called a Clavio line, which is, on Baby We Are a Rich Man, the beginning of that.
Yeah.
It was like a little weird organ. It was one of them. I had a little Casio, I think it was called an MT40, little keyboard, tiny little thing. I borrowed Teardrop Explode's string synth. And what else did I use? I did do guitar bits on there, and I had a piano as well, which was all out of tune. And it was just like, everybody was giving away pianos back in, that time, because nobody wanted a piano anymore. So I've got this great big piano in my front room, and I don't want it anymore. Taken away, you can have it kind of thing. And it was all out of tune, so I just recorded some of that and just chopping away. I don't know how to play the piano, I was just making it up,
Right.
So I had all the Les's bass, and I had this great pedal called Electro Harmonics Attack Decay. And what it did was it would make, you played the guitar through it, it'd fade it up and it'd make it sound reversed, so it'd go, play the note and it'd fade up the note, so it'd go, and then it would just stop. You could set it so it stopped at a given point, like so many seconds, then it just stopped dead. So you could sort of do this fake reverse thing. And I put Les's bass through it and just started doing this bass thing, and it was like breathing. It was going up and down all the time. So that was one of them. And I had the drum machine, and I just started making stuff up. And I was in, we rehearsed in a place called the Ministry, and I was doing one of these things for Grind, and it was Zimbo. And the others came in because we were at rehearsed there, and they all turned up and they said, "Oh, what's that you're doing?" I said, "Oh, it's for this Grind thing," and they liked it, So I said, "Well, I don't mind throwing it into the Bunnyman pot," So that's how Zimbo appeared,
Yeah, well, that was really early. So when did you make Grind? That was kind of like later than Zimbo, right?
81 or something.
Oh, really? Was that early? Wow. And were you really into the Residents too? I knew you were a Residents fan, and Eno too, obviously on that record a lot. It seems like. Was Eno supposed to produce Heaven Up Here at some point, or was he asked or something?
What that was, I said, like, we were dragged into the record company, who's going to produce this record or whatever. And I said, Brian Eno. And the bloke at the record label said, no, he's too weird. Well, that's why I want him, And Mac piped up with, "Well, I want David Bowie then." It was just like, so in the end, we just sort of, we had a...
But wait, wasn't David Bowie reliant on Brian Eno?
Like be against anything I wanted. The record company weren't keen because he hadn't done U2 or anything then, and he was like they'd seen him as like some sort of weird space alien bloke out of Roxy Music,
Right. Yeah. He picked the wrong band later. I was reading he was recording U2 and Coldplay at the same time, and he mixed up the tapes and couldn't tell who was who. Well, what do we have going on in the near future? Well, I know with music opening back up, I know there's a big Bunnyman gig like in LA, like every band is playing in March or something, right? So you'd have one gig slated.
Yeah, and with like as far as I know, we're starting again February 2022. We'll see how it goes. Who knows what's around the corner? You can't predict anything anymore, can you? It's too weird. We live in this weird sci-fi world now.
Have you been recording stuff at home?
I've been doing stuff for this film. It's and sending it to my friend in Topanga Canyon. Adam. That's what I've been doing, and I'll be doing more of that. And I've done some stuff that it was kind of like intended for Bunnymen World, songs, and I just can't get anything through the net anymore. So I sent them to Kelly, and Kelly's done some really good vocals on them.
Oh, cool.
And, so I'm hopefully going to do an album with Kelly.
I'd like to see what you and Kelly get up to. I think it'd be amazing.
Yeah, I'd love to go over to his studio and work with him. He's so open for ideas and so musical.
He's got a wide palette too. He likes New Zealand stuff. He likes everything. He's great.
Yeah, I think we'd definitely do a good record. And the thing that I've done, that he's put in the boat. Like I sent him 3 tracks so far, and they're all really good. They need a bit of sorting out, but some brilliant bits in it.
Yeah, well, I look forward. And how about, I think I heard rumors of part 2 of a book at some point. I'm sure you're not ready to think about it, but there's a lot more to be told.
I'm thinking about that all the time, and that's, I've like sort of started a little bit, Yeah, that's going to go from when Pete joins. It's obvious, isn't it? It's like, like your story is your story, and it's my view of what happened. So it's, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm telling the truth. So it's not like I'm not embellishing it or making it all rock and roll. And a lot of it was boring, on a tour bus in America, and you've got to go 900 miles and you're sat at the front of the bus and the road's just a line ahead of you. Like you kind of get into it in a kind of Zen trance way, but for a few hours of that, you want to kill each other.
I think the first fall tour, they were in like this tiny thing and they did like this coast to coast thing for like 2 months, almost killed each other.
Yeah, we were in one of them monoline vans for our first tours over there. Them like, is it a Dodge? Is it
something? Yeah, Mark Riley was miserable. He said they were stuck in L.A. They ran out of money. They had to play like 8 gigs in L.A. to get out of L.A. and stuff. It was crazy. Well, great. Well, congrats on the book once again, and #1 on Amazon Rock book chart. Yeah. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Oh, brilliant.
Cool.
So chuffed with that. I've never had a #1 anything.
You're a mensch. You're a guy people want to hear from. Well, thank you for letting me geek out with all these live tracks today and everything too. It was it meant a lot to speak to you today, and thankfully you spent some time. And we're finishing up with a couple tracks from Will Sargent's Themes for Grind LP, solo LP, very understated, very beautiful record on the 92 Happy Customers label. We're listening to Theme 6, and I want to thank Will for hanging out today on the program. Also a thank you to Kelly Stoltz, whom he was mentioning at the end of the interview. Kelly, friend of the show, hooked us up with that interview, and thanks to everybody at Third Man Records as well. Don't forget Bunny Man. Will's book is out next month here in the States. You can go to Third Man's site and order that. And thanks again to Will Sargent. Thank you folks for tuning in for the last couple hours. My name is Brian Turner, and the show airs every 2 weeks. You can go to brianturnershow.com, and you can also download it on Apple Podcasts and streaming on Mixcloud, as well as all the old shows. And the show also airs during the week of the appearance on Efferalgang Radio in Paris, Wednesdays 10 a.m. New York time, and then Thursdays same time on Veneno in Brazil. Hello to Rafa. He was up visiting us this past week here in New York City, and hello to all our friends down there. We'll speak to you all in a couple weeks, and thanks again for tuning in to the radio show. We're always happy to have you, and talk to you soon. Take care.
Man at the back has a question. His tongue's involved with solutions. Put the monkey on my bed. Won't stop laughing. be said for you. And your hopes of higher ruling, but the slug on my neck won't stop chewing. Good night. Don't be scared of muscles.